Bonsuelo athletes. Okay, just a quick summary. I'm not going to go through the summary itself. I'm just going to kind of tell you what we've done this year and what you're responsible for this semester. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about graphing, then I'm going to talk about solving. So first of all, graphing. What have we done? We've graphed lines. We've graphed quadratic equations, which is parabolas. And in Chapter 5 this semester, we've graphed degree 3 or greater. Okay, we've also graphed in the first semester absolute value. And in the first semester, we graphed radical equations. Now, what are you responsible for here? Well, other than recognizing and looking at an equation saying, oh, that's going to graph as a line, you're not really responsible for graphing a line, okay? I mean, you should know how to do it. You're going to need to know to do it for next year, but this semester. Okay, this semester you don't really need to. Quadratic equations. Do you need to know how to graph a quadratic equation? Yes, in general, okay? In other words, I'm not going to give you something where you have to calculate the vertex or anything like that, but you should know what the basic quadratic equation looks like, the 5 points on the basic quadratic equation, and then shift, stretch, compress it, etc., etc. Degree 3 or greater. Yes, you should know how to graph that because we've done that this semester. Okay, absolute value. Yes, you should know that graphs as a V, and that you should be able to shift it, stretch, compress it, etc., etc. Radical equations. Yes, you should know that that's a half parabola on its side, and you should shift it, stretch, compress it, etc., etc. So you should know how to graph all these four. You should really know how to graph a line too, but I'm not going to ask you to graph a line this semester. But you should know how to do it. Okay, that's for graphing. Now, how about solving equations? Okay, so now I'm going to talk about solving. Do you need to know how to how to solve a linear equation? Yeah, you do. It's very simple. It's just SADMAP. Do you need to know how to solve a quadratic equation? Yes, you do. Factor and set each factor equal to 0. Do you need to know how to solve degree 3 and greater? Yes, that's what we did in Chapter 5. Okay, now, absolute value we did in the first semester, but I'm not going to ask you that this semester. And radical equations we haven't even done yet. Now, eventually you will need to know how to do that, okay? So that's what we've done. Now, in this semester, we're going to graph rational equations. As a matter of fact, in the honors class, I just showed you how to do it. Regular algebra 2 trig, we're not going to graph the rational equations. So honors needs to know how to graph rational functions. Regular algebra 2 trig does not need to know how to do that. Okay, and eventually we'll get to exponential and logarithmic equations, but we haven't done that yet. Okay, solving rational equations, both classes will get to at the end of this chapter. Sorry, not at the end of this chapter, pretty soon. Okay, and then eventually, again, you'll get to exponential and log equations. So you should read the rest of this. It tells you how to identify each type of equation. Like, how do you know when you're looking at a linear equation? How do you know when you're looking at a quadratic equation, et cetera, et cetera? Okay? How to graph each one and how to solve each one. And again, the thing that the honors class is responsible for, but the regular algebra 2 trig is not responsible for, is graphing rational functions. So the regular class, the college prep class, not the honors class, can skip the part about graphing rational functions. Anyway, that's it in a nutshell. You should read through this. You're responsible for all of it. All it is a summary. It's not saying anything new. If you have any questions on it, just ask. Bye-bye.